Hi friends, good morning. Welcome back to my Chanel. For those of you that might be new here, hi, welcome. My name is Megan and today we have episode 2 in my fashion cores and aesthetics mini series. If your style leans a little darker, moodier, and more romantic, this episode is for you. Today we're breaking down dark academia, whimsigoth, and cottagecore, what they actually mean, and how to spot them while thrifting, as well as what sells. In the last episode, we covered some more softer, minimalist aesthetics, and today we're going to completely change the direction to darker, moodier, vintage-friendly fashion cores that I see constantly when I'm thrifting as well as in my sales. And the first fashion core trend we're going to talk about is dark academia. Dark academia is a moody, intellectual, vintage-inspired aesthetic rooted in classic literature, old universities, and traditional tailoring. Think libraries, tweed, wool, structured layers, and a slightly gothic undertone. Picture Timothée Chalamet in tweed or Emma Watson in classic academia tailoring. The vibes of this fashion core aesthetic are moody, intellectual, vintage, scholarly, romantic, and dark neutrals. Key elements to look for are blazered, structured jackets, wool trousers, plaid, houndstooth tweed, cable knit sweaters, button-down shirts, loafers and oxfords, scarves, leather satchels, and vests and waistcoats. The color palette for this aesthetic would be brown, charcoal, forest green, oxblood, cream, and black. Fabrics and details to call out in your listings: wool and wool blends, tweed, flannel, corduroy, leather buttons, elbow patches, and structured tailoring. Search words that convert, so your SEO terms: vintage collegiate, heritage style, library core, and tailored vintage. What sells best? Wool blazers, especially herringbone, plaid trousers, sweaters and vests, heavy on the sweater vests, and leather shoes and bags. And what to avoid? I would avoid cheap costume, school uniform adjacent pieces, as well as low quality polyester suiting. Dark academia buyers care about texture and structure. If it's weighted, tailored, and has a vintage inspired vibe, it will usually perform well, even without a big brand name. And the second aesthetic or vibe we are going to talk about is Whimsigoth. Whimsigoth is a mythical, romantic, slightly gothic aesthetic with a dreamy, witchy edge. It blends velvet, lace, sheer layers, celestial motifs, and rich jewel tones. Think Stevie Nicks or Florence Welch. Flowing fabrics, velvet, lace, and that mythical, romantic edge. The vibes of this core are mythical, witchy, romantic, ethereal, and moody. Key elements for this core aesthetic: I would look for velvet dresses and tops, sheer sleeves, lace overlays, burnout fabrics, maxi skirts, asymmetrical hems, bell sleeves, corset inspired pieces, and celestial or floral motifs. The color palette for this core or aesthetic would be black, plum, wine, emerald, midnight blue, all of those dark, rich tones. And the fabrics and details that I would be sure to call out in your listings would be velvet and velvet burnout, mesh and lace, chiffon, beaded and embroidered details, tie fronts, and draped silhouettes. Key search words that convert, so your key SEO terms: witchy aesthetic, gothic ethereal, romantic gothic, and fairy grunge. What sells best? Velvet maxi dresses, sheer lace tops, flowing asymmetrical skirts, and statement outerwear. What to avoid? Cheap Halloween adjacent costume pieces and stiff or overly shiny synthetic fabrics. Whimsigoth buyers are drawn to mood and texture. If a piece feels dramatic, romantic, and a little mystical, especially in rich fabrics like velvet or lace, it tends to perform really well, even without a designer label. And the last fashion core aesthetic for this quick little deep dive video is cottagecore. Cottagecore is a romantic aesthetic inspired by nature, slow living, and vintage countryside style. Soft silhouettes, natural fabrics, and nostalgic details are key. Folklore era Taylor Swift, that's cottagecore. The vibes for this aesthetic are romantic, soft, vintage, cozy, and feminine. Key style elements to look for: prairie dresses, puff sleeves, smocked bodices, apron style dresses, floral prints, lace trims, midi and maxi length, and cardigans. The color palette for this aesthetic would be cream, sage, soft blues, beige, anything very feminine in that family of colors. And the fabrics and details that I would call out in your listings would be cotton and linen, eyelet details, smocking, embroidery, tie straps, and natural fibers. Key search words that convert, so your key SEO terms would be slow fashion, romantic floral, heirloom style, milkmaid, and soft feminine. What sells best for this particular fashion core? Prairie and midi dresses. The milkmaid style dress also does really well. Smocked tops and romantic blouses. Things I would avoid for this particular aesthetic would be thin, fast fashion cotton pieces and prints that read overly juvenile. So maybe a loud, unsophisticated floral print I would avoid. Cottagecore buyers love softness and nostalgia. Natural fibers, romantic silhouettes, and vintage-inspired details are what sells here. So those are three very different aesthetics, but they all share one thing in common. They're driven by vibe and fabric, not just by brand names. So comment below which one you love most, Dark Academia, Whimsigoth, or Cottagecore, and let me know what fashion cores you would love to see in an upcoming episode in this series. Speaking of upcoming episode, up next we're getting into Y2K territory. Indie sleaze, McBling, and 90s minimalism are coming in episode 3. So be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss that. And with that, I will let you go, friends. If you took the time to watch this video and you spent your social media currency with me today, I so appreciate you. And if you wouldn't mind just hitting like on your way out, that would be awesome. I'll see you next time, friends. Bye.